red-tailed gorilla. I'm going to go ahead and take this rifle off because today I'm talking about the chest deer. And not mine, but my experience with the chest rigs. And again, memory of a goldfish, right? In general. When I first started out in the olden days of the U.S. Army, it wasn't even the olden days yet. We were 8 years into the war, and I was still issued for training the old LCE Alice deer. That's crazy. We had a Y harness, we had the pistol belt, and it had, you know, a decent setup. The pistol belt could unclip in the front, and you had one pouch for 3 mags and 2 grenades, so 4 grenades total because we got another pouch for 3 magazines. So you got 6 whole magazines, which is good because basic combat load is 6 plus 1 in the gun. We also had 2 canteens and 1 canteen cup, but I always carried 2 because it was nice to do things with the 2. I also always carried an eating tool, which, you know, my DIs didn't really like. It's not an issued item, but I don't give a fuck. I like being able to eat with something that's not my hands or being able to boil water in a canteen cup. Let's go and do it again. All right, so very fantastic. And then you have that massive butt pouch in the back, and you're carrying almost all your other gear in there, like your camouflage, had our ponchos in there, because I don't think we were doing the split 2-man tents anymore, like those had just come out of, like gotten rid of out of basic training, and that was kind of it. So the Alice was fucking fantastic, the LCE, aside from the Alice backpack, right? So there was no great way to have that Y harness or even the H harness. I got extremely lucky because my dad was also soldier and I got to borrow his H harness. Much more comfortable than the Y harness. And you cannot wear, I mean you can, you can't get comfortable with the LCE because either your butt pack either has to be dropped low, meaning you're loosening up the straps so much to where it's underneath of the Alice's kidney pad, or you're wearing the Alice backpack on top of it. So it wasn't a really good way to get comfortable. I think the way that I got comfortable was really to tighten up that pistol belt to where it was up near my tits and had my magazines close, so it's very similar to a chesty rig, but took the butt pack off completely and threw it inside the ruck. Not cool for react to contact because a lot of the times if we were going to go ahead and fight the enemy, we would take off our rucks. Well, now I just lost all my mission essential equipment that I throw inside my butt pack, or I just have to ride that damn thing out and have like the biggest ruck burn on my back. Not cool, man. So that was not something that I wanted to do or deal with. Fast forward to going to AIT, right? Not a whole lot of time in at this point. I'm a kid. And we got the LBV, the load-bearing vest. So you lose 2 grenades. It ends up having like 2 grenade patches down here on your hips. And as it's coming up, it's got these very odd, not quite vertical, not quite horizontal, diagonal pouches that hold 2 magazines apiece. You got 4 of them. So you bumped up from 7 total magazines to 9 total magazines because you got 8 on your person and 1 on the gun. Your butt pack is still in the same fucking spot, and this is miserable because the weird corset setup that's in the back of this thing, you got to tie it all up weird and try to make it nice and tight, and now you can't even adjust it to where your butt pack can go underneath of your Alice, right? Now let's fast forward to actual service, right? I get the Molly 2 in Woodland, which is crazy because we have the ACUs at this point. You get the Molly 2, the first version, where the rucksack is a like 35 liter, I think, and then 25 liter for the sleeping system. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was the flick that did it in for me. Well, by the time I got the flick, it didn't matter. We were going over to Afghanistan, which was pretty quick. We were going over to Afghanistan, and nobody even wore those flicks anymore because I got extremely lucky. I wasn't with a regular unit, and we just mollied everything straight onto our no longer chest rig. We had our armor on, and again, I got extremely lucky. The only way that you could run the IBA with the Alice gear was to just throw it on top of it, but we didn't have the IBA. again, extremely lucky. I went from using the IBA with large plates in training and a large IBA because everybody's a fucking large, to having an actual size medium, which still was a little too big for me. I'm not a big guy. But they didn't have small at the time, but I got medium plates and a medium plate carrier, and it had all the Molly stuff on it, so we just attached everything to that. So I had 3 1x2s, so I still had my 6, and then on our left, everybody carried their IFAC on the left side in order to make sure that we all knew how to do whatever. And everybody was CLS qualified. Not everybody was doing the TCCC yet, right? And now I think almost everybody is doing TCCC. On the other side, I think I mostly kept that clear because my pistol mags I kept like in my pocket. No lie, I got a pistol as a kid, and we all were moving around in vehicles so much, I just had the pistol where your admin pouch would normally be, and I think it was a Serpa holster for my M9, right? So I had the M9 with a Serpa holster, and it clipped into the Molly, and like, yeah, that's really cool, because if I'm in a vehicle most of the days, I got my rifle by my side, but I can't yank that thing up and point it out of a window. I just had the little pistol so I could point it at the Humvee or point it out the MRAP or whatever while I was over in Afghanistan. So yeah, I still had a drop leg system, but I had like one on the left side. We weren't even carrying gas masks at this point because we didn't think, or the Taliban hadn't like a really good way to use gas. So we didn't even carry our gas masks while we were over there. Crazy, right? Mind blown, because I wore a gas mask all the time in fucking garrison. But yeah. It was just much easier to do that. Alright, Red Cell, I'm back on another day to finish up this chest rig stuff. Alright, cool. So I think where I left off was in Afghanistan, we really didn't use a chest rig. We really just used our armor and volleyed a bunch of shit to it, right? Nothing was light, ever. I don't think that was, wasn't necessarily a big deal for a young cat like me, but yeah, nothing was light, ever. So let's go ahead and actually talk about the flick. So the flick is a little vest, very similar to the, let's get a better angle real quick. Whoop. The vest was very similar to the LBV, right? The load-bearing vest, in that it does have a zipper front, right? So we got a zipper front. It's got a belt that goes around the back. You clip in, you zip, and then you have another clip in, which doesn't work for any of my maximum sized dudes out there, right? So all you 6'5" fucking chads that are walking around like big old fucking gorillas, meanwhile I'm over here just being a tiny chimp, fits me fine. Your big ass is like, how do I do, right? So what we ended up doing was somebody had figured out this thing turns around. The belt of the flick turns around, pulled the belt out, turned it around, zipped up the front, and now it's basically a Rhodesian rig, kind of, sort of, but not really, and then it's got a bunch of Molly on it. So we threw 2 of the 3x1 shingles on top of each other, one as close to us as possible, and the second one right on top of that. The only issue with that is that the zipper doesn't have Molly on it. So where that zipper was, it wasn't super duper secure, and now you're carrying 90% of your flick's weight right on that zipper that has space between it. You know what I'm saying? Not super fantastic. And then most of us ran our canteens right next to them, and then everything else was kind of sort of on the back. You got to remember, we're just a bunch of little nugs. We don't usually get pistols, right? So there was no pistol extra stuff on the flick whenever we were doing that. I think that it really worked out. It was an okay system. It did have like a little weird map pocket on each side of the zipper, right? Underneath of all your kit. Was able to carry 2 grenades as well as your compass and protractor and all the things that you really do need to be carrying whenever you're chilling out in the field, right? Well, let's fast forward a few more years. I think about 5 years later, I ended up switching posts and switching jobs, and that was, it was what it was. But I got the TAPS, the TAPS, the Tactical Assault Panel System. The Army finally did something kind of, sort of, almost right. The TAPS is just a panel that goes around and has six magazine pouches already in it. The backside of it has 3 little admin pouches that are just mesh and kind of closed together with hook and loop. So you're Velcro. Super tactical. But the rest of it was just flat molly that you could hook everything else up to. So I had an admin pouch up front, and I luckily was not running canteens anymore because camelbacks are a thing, right? But I could if I wanted to. I think I usually carry 1 canteen anyway, just because the canteen cup, I like having something that I can cook in if I'm out in the middles of nowhere and, want to dig a Dakota fire hole and cook and have boiled water and not shit myself to death, right? Because shitting yourself to death is, breaking one of the 3 rules, and that first rule is always look cool, right? All right, so aside from that, it was awesome. Still was able to put my medical pouch on the left side where I still like having it. This is not a medical pouch. But yeah, still liked having that medical pouch, easy access. That we didn't have danglers, didn't have anything cool like that. And I would say that coolness is subjective. And I was able to carry everything that I needed to. I had room for the flashbang. I had room for a pistol pouch specifically for my Gerber. I had room for another pistol pouch specifically for pistol mags. I had good real estate for everything that I needed. The only gripe that I really have with the TAP system is the harness. So I'm wearing an H harness right now, but this thing was a weird Y harness that came together. There was no H right here. It just came together right at the nape of your neck, and then it would do a weird Y, and then it would come to the sides like this does. Right? So, come on, Army. Nobody wants a Y harness. There's a fucking reason. They're not comfortable, and you throw a ruck on top of your Y harness, and you just have ruck rub all over your spine. Come on, man. But it did have this really cool thing where it came with all the parts where it would clip into your armor. No longer do you need to fix a set of armor and fix a set of flick or whatever you're doing, and you don't have to pull anything off of your fighting load carrier and put it onto your armor in order to use one or the other. Now you just use one system, and whenever the guys are like, we're all wearing armor tomorrow, you just come in and clip it into your armor, and the TAPS was great and fantastic at that. That was probably where it shined the most for me, was the fact that I no longer had to have 2 or 3 different setups just to go on a weekend excursion. I didn't have to have 2 or 3 setups to go to the range, because whenever you go to the range, everybody would start off, slick and shooting normal. You get your 0, yada, 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 and then you would still be slick and do your prone unsupported, and your kneeling, and then we would start doing the squad movements and stuff, and now you're wearing your helmet and all of your stuff just in case somebody decides to shoot at somebody else on accident or on purpose. Doesn't really matter, does it? Whenever you got lead coming your way. So that is kind of why I think the TAPS is probably the best. Those are chest rig options and carrying options that are still out there. I'm going to get into this later. This is a Spiritus rig that I've got set up, and I'm still trying to figure this thing out, guys. Right? That's why I say things like, when you don't know where to go, just go ahead with what you know. The TAPS is something that has all of the stuff that you want. It doesn't have any of the cool gimmicky stuff. I really do like this as a chest rig, but there's a lot to be desired as of right now, and that's because of my own understanding, not really because of the equipment. It doesn't have enough real estate for me to thoroughly enjoy it, but it is very nice and light, so I enjoy that portion of it, right? I'll get into this in the next video just because I think I've got a lot really to cover, and that's kind of it, guys. This has been Red Cell in transmission.